Welcome back to NetLab 7, Creating and Managing vCenter Server Inventory. I'm Richard Golson, and I'm going to walk you through Task 2, adding my ESXi host to the vCenter Server Inventory. And so if we take a look over here, I have the data center that is populated with 2 ESXi servers that we've been working with in the labs. And you'll notice that there's a lab cluster, the 2 ESXi servers, we have the resources. We mentioned this earlier, and if we identify those out on the topology over here, I'll click over here and take a look, you'll see that here is that ESXi 1 and ESXi 2. Now, some of the labs have a third ESXi server, and they're used for this kind of for this opportunity we have here of creating a new data center. So within the VCSA, the existing VCSA, we've created a new data center. We're going to add this ESXi server to that. It currently hasn't been added to a data center yet. You can notice that its management address is that 172.20.10.53. And so that's what we're going to use to add that. Let's go back over to our vCenter server and the vSphere client. So looking at the vSphere client, I'll go ahead and close it up, get it out of my way, select the lab data center, and let's go ahead and take a look at adding that host. Now, before I do that, I do want to show you that I have all these other options that are available in here, and some of these will be, I can accomplish things like adding a host or adding a cluster. And those I can do right now. But what would happen if I tried to add a virtual machine? Think about this. I do not have any resources here. So can I, in fact, add a virtual machine? Well, let's go take a look. So I'm going to click on adding a new virtual machine, and I'll just accept the defaults. So I'll get a new virtual machine. It's identifying my lab data center. That's good. I'll click Next. I'll select the lab data center, and it'll tell me that I do not have any resources like a cluster, a host, a resource pool, or vApp as my destination. They're not available. So that shows me very clearly that until I have a host with resources, I really can't proceed forward. So let me go ahead and click the cancel on this. And let's start over. So we know we're going to add that host, and the host that we're talking about adding, as I said earlier, is this one here. So let's go ahead and do this, and this will go pretty fast. I'll click back here. I'm back in my vSphere client. I'll right click, and I'm going to add that host. And as you might recall, it has a specific address within the topology. So it's 172.20.10. Right, this is that management network, and then its particular address ends in a .53. I'll go ahead and hit Next, and I will type in the credentials that have been configured on that ESXi host, and you may recall that when we log in specifically to an ESXi host rather than the vSphere client, I need to use that root account and the credentials, or that root account and the password that goes with that. Hit the Next, and it says the certificate store cannot verify the certificate. And really what it's simply saying is there is no information currently stored about this. This is new. So if I didn't pre-stage that information, if I didn't have a host certificate already available in there, if this is not part of Active Directory or anything like that, you're going to get this message. And since I trust this, I'm going to go ahead and press the yes. And at this point, I get my summary. And there's the address, and no virtual machines found on there. And if there were, then they could get registered in the data center. If you recall, we can create virtual machines directly on ESXi hosts. I can even remove a host from a data center and move it to another data center. We'll hit Next. Now, the next piece here, which is kind of fun, we get to deal with the licensing on here. And you'll notice that a license pops up. Where's this license located? Well, that is one of the services available on the vCenter server that I can access when I'm doing something like this. it can store these licenses, which I can then apply. So it says right here that the evaluation license is going to expire in 58 days. So I could use that, or I can use this one that was stored in the license store in vSphere. And so I've selected it. Tells me some features will become available. You can hit the pop-up and take a look at that. And it would tell me that DRS, maintenance mode, workload management, that sort of thing. I'm just going to hit the done there. And I will hit the next button here. And then on the lockdown mode, you'll notice that it is set for disabled. In production, you typically would want to lock this down. So this just goes back to securing the interfaces. So in normal lockdown mode, the host becomes accessible only through the local console or the vCenter server, meaning that I can use the console directly to the host or vCenter. Strict host is accessible only through vCenter server. This would be the most secure, but it wouldn't allow you to access the host, or it would make it more difficult to access the host in the event that vCenter went down. Okay, so we're going to leave it in disabled mode. We'll hit the next and confirm that it should land in our lab data center. Hit my next. Confirm my settings down here. If that all looks good, I'll hit the finish. And I should see I've been kind of yakking along. The progress should go pretty fast because it's been going for a little while. And there you can see that the progress is complete. Now, I don't see a host up here yet. So we know that we've added the host. So if you recall, there is a refresh button here, and I can just click that. And that gets the vSphere client to interact with the environment, talk to the database. If it needs to, it's going to interact with the ESXi servers, etc., and then reloads the information. And then you can see that I've got a single host, and now I have a network, and now I have a data store. And if I expand that out, you can see that there is, in fact, that ESXi host. Here's my summary. Tells me my hypervisor version, how many processors I have, the number of NICs. There's my uptime since I started the lab, no doubt. There's the CPU usage is fairly low. So all of the information I would expect to see is available in here. And you can, of course, always come look down below, and if you want to do tagging and things like that. And you can see down here under the recent tasks, everything's looking good. So that essentially gets this wrapped up. One last thing, if we take a look under this hardware, I do want to point out that we can see the same information here and here. They're going to match because I only have the one host. This information should essentially be identical until I add additional hosts, which is this is an aggregate. My aggregate's just this one server. All right, that's it for this task. Gave you a few extra things to take a look at, but let's go ahead and in the next task we will keep going. All right, we'll see you then.